So we're just coming off of Francis Ngannou beating Cyril Gane for the heavyweight championship and retaining in his first title defense. So now a fight between Francis and Ngannou and Jon Jones seems like the fight everyone still wants. Everyone wanted it right after Francis beat Stipe, and now it seems like it could be even more hyped if they promote it right and if they're able to keep Francis in a new contract and Francis doesn't leave to boxing, and if Jones actually decides to come back, then this would be a perfect matchup and everyone wants to see it.
Yeah, and I feel like this could be one of the biggest fights they could make in the UFC. But I mean, Francis Ngannou said that that was his last fight on his contract, and he has like injuries right now with a torn AC or MCL and injuries with an ACL, and he doesn't have good knees right now, so it doesn't look like he's gonna be fighting anytime soon. Maybe he'll get stripped, or maybe I don't know. Maybe this fight will be happening, Francis Ngannou versus Jon Jones, or maybe someone else in the heavyweight division, but. It's definitely going to be interesting to see where the heavyweight division goes after that Francis Ngannou versus Cyril Gane fight. So many improvements with Francis Ngannou's game recently. I mean, in that Cyril Gane fight, we saw the patience and his wrestling, obviously, which was super unexpected. No one really expected that because in that first Stipe fight, we saw a lot of flaws in his cardio and his overall game in wrestling, and you can just tell a lot of improvements have been made in his game. This fight would definitely be super interesting.
It's interesting to see if Francis is going to be able to negotiate with the UFC and how much leverage he really has, as he's a big name in the sports. And we've just seen recently with Tyson Fury and Dillian White being booked how much money they're getting just off the purse alone, with Tyson getting 32 million. And we know how Francis has
Yeah.
wanted to fight him. So if he sees that money and maybe he wants to go for the boxing, and now that his contract's up, he definitely has the possibility to do that. But it would be a real shame, as him versus Jon Jones would be such a crazy fight. Of course, we know the extensive history of Jon Jones and how amazing his resume is and how he's been everyone that's come in his path and all these legends. And that fight alone would be crazy. And just to see Jones return, especially at heavyweight, at such a bigger weight than what he's used to.
Yeah. So much bigger of a weight, and reportedly 265 pounds according to him. So that would definitely be super interesting to see how that affects his game. Obviously, also training with the two division world champion Henry Cejudo, who is looking to come back. But John has hopes to do the same, to become a two division champion with light heavyweight, and now setting his sights on the heavyweight division. It'll be interesting to see if he's able to conquer, because the division is in a really weird state right now, with the champion obviously looking to be out for a while and having contract negotiation issues with the UFC, looking to maybe even go to boxing. And they're similar age, Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou, and both of them have a desire to make more money with the UFC. They both want more money, and they both are looking to get paid. So they deserve it. They're some of the best fighters in the world.
Yeah, and definitely for a fight of this magnitude, there's no reason why Dana and the UFC should not be paying them like so much money, especially more than Francis made. Just 600,000 was reported for his person versus Cyril Gane. So there's no reason why a fight this big should not be making that much, as this could potentially be one of the biggest fights in UFC history. And to see how their kind of matchup plays against each other, where of course you have Francis, who's super powerful in the stand up, and but now we've seen that he's developed more of a ground game and managed to out wrestle Cyril Gane in their fight. And we know how Jon Jones is just overall amazing fighter, has amazing wrestling, has great stand up, very creative fighter, and it depends though how Jones will adjust the heavyweight and to that new weight, if he'll be still as fast. Of course, he'll still have his amazing fight IQ, but speed will be an important thing for him when he, especially fighting a guy like Francis Ngannou, who's very explosive and he's very fast with his strikes, and he could just pop out and hit you with a huge bomb whenever. It's gonna be interesting to see how it affects a matchup between the two, and if Jones will still be able to continue his dominance over MMA and just his long legacy. And after that, if he were to win the heavyweight championship of the world, he's gotta be like considered like the greatest ever by the large consensus,
Yeah,
because of already of what
for
he's
sure.
done,
I
and
think so.
plus getting the heavyweight championship against a guy like Francis Ngannou, how can you like deny him at that point? Like it would just be insane.
Francis Ngannou, he's a big guy. He weighed in at 260 pounds against Cyril Gane, or close to that at least, 257 maybe. And he's big, but he's also athletic, like you said. He's explosive. He still is fast twitch. and he hits super hard. So it will definitely be interesting to see how the size would play into a factor. They're the same height, and Jones is very lanky, is insane reach. I think it would probably edge. I'd probably edge it out slightly to Jones, just because he has so many tools in his arsenal, and I feel like Francis doesn't really have as many ways to win as John. Even though we've seen an improved wrestling game, I don't think it will match John Jones's. So yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how this will play out. But you can never count out Francis with his insane power and his improvements. His overall showcase of how he's been able to evolve in the sport, how he's able to adapt to in mid fight against Cyril Gane, how he's able to adjust his game plan and just be more patient, be smarter, be more aware. And I think it would definitely be such a good fight and one of the biggest fights they can make, because these guys are such big stars. Francis Ngannou with amazing marketability, with being the hardest puncher they've ever seen in the UFC, and Jon Jones, of course, being pretty much one of the best ever, if not the best ever.
We know how confident both of these guys are. Jon Jones, especially, been tweeting after Francis and Cyril had their fight, saying, "If this is the apex of the UFC heavyweight, then I've got this in the bag pretty much." And we know that Francis has been talking about this fight and wants it very badly. He was saying he's kind of over it in the, I think it was post-fight interview after Cyril gone.
Have you seen his tweets?
Not really, but I know that Jon Jones is the champion of Twitter, so I'm not concerned about that. He's pretty good at tweeting.
Yeah.
Just because he couldn't get it done and it didn't seem like it was getting done, but
Especially after the Stipe fight, where that fight looked like it was about to be made, but it never ended up coming to tuition. So I think Francis might have been a bit salty that that fight never came into tuition. John never actually ended up fighting. So I think he might have just been like he's just over it at that point. But he'd definitely take the fight if the opportunity was presented to him.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And also, like with Jones, in his recent fights, we've seen like a bit of hiccups. How they've been pretty close against Dominic Reyes and Thiago Santos, but I feel like definitely him coming to heavyweight, he's gonna be as motivated as possible, especially against such a scary fighter like Francis Ngannou. He's gonna make sure he doesn't want to get caught, he doesn't want to lose, especially for his legacy, and he's gonna come in 100%, and he has to, and I'm sure Francis will do the same. We'll see how he recovers after his big injuries. It's pretty big tell when they have like something covering their knees, I guess. Because
Yeah,
I was even
knee
wondering how
pads.
come he had that, maybe for some different purposes, but we found out after that he was severely injured. So we'll see how that plays in effect once he's fully recovered. We're all super excited to see this fight, and hopefully we see it pretty soon.